If you're like me and you were actually looking forward to She-Hulk this week after seeing Daredevil's cowl in last week's episode, boy are you in for a ride with this one. Hey y'all, Snarky J Cosplay here. Episode 6 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law is now out. That means we've only got 3 left. So what's this one? It's the wedding episode that nobody asked for. I'll kick off the non-spoiler portion of my review with my rating, which for episode 6 is a 1 out of 10. Yes, I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. It is my lowest rating for any episode of this mean green cringe machine so far, which, to be fair, I honestly think I've been super generous giving out 3s and 4s in the past. Honestly, I'm done. One of my main issues with this show is that there's no overarching plot. There isn't even a plot in this episode. Every character is a walking stereotype, every woman is written as vapid and awful just to make Jen look better. Of all the episodes of this show, this one is the least deserving of your time, my time, or anybody else's time. This is complete garbage served up by writers who seem like their sole purpose in life is to frustrate viewers. Like I said, my rating is a 1 out of 10. That is all I can say without giving too much away. Now, let's get into it. From this point on, there will be spoilers for episode 6 of She-Hulk Attorney at Law. You've been warned. We start off with Jen opening up a box that has her name on it in big sparkly letters. It turns out that this is a wedding invite and also a request for her to be a bridesmaid for an old friend of hers from high school, Lulu. Even though wedding invites don't get sent out 2 days before the event, Jen is immediately packing a bag with the help of her personal cheerleader slash paralegal, Nikki. Nikki is desperately trying to convince Jen to show her the super suit that she got from Luke. Jen refuses, but she does show her a blue polka dot dress that Luke made her that will fit both Jen and She-Hulk. Now, in the midst of all the chaos of packing bags and having conversations about whether or not Jen was supposed to say no to being a bridesmaid, Jen says that she feels bad leaving Mallory and Nikki to pick up the slack on a divorce case she apparently just got. It's here that we get a so adorable fourth wall break from Jen, who lets us know that this is a self-contained wedding episode and admittedly is coming in a very inconvenient time in the season, which according to her makes sense because weddings are always at the most inconvenient time. I find this adorable because to me it feels like the writers know that what they're putting out is garbage, and at this point they're just making fun of the MCU fans for continuing to watch and continuing to pay Disney a subscription fee to be mad about this show. And yet, because they keep teasing us with Daredevil, we keep tuning in to watch this cringe fest every week. Now, Jen shows up to the wedding rehearsal as She-Hulk, which upsets Lulu, who is painted to be a bridezilla, because she doesn't want the attention to be on She-Hulk. She wants it all to be on her because she's the bride and it's her big day. Now, I know this is supposed to make Lulu look self-centered and Jen look like the victim, but really, if there are rules against wearing white at a wedding because you shouldn't upstage the bride, isn't there like an unwritten rule that you shouldn't show up as a big green superhero and steal attention away that way? I don't know, maybe it's just me. Jen and Lulu talk this out, of course, and Jen agrees to show up to the wedding as just Jen, not She-Hulk. Lulu is grateful and gives Jen a hug, resulting in her face basically smushed up against Jen's boobs, which is so funny it's just missing a 90s sitcom track to remind me to laugh. Now, Jen admits that she's actually bummed that she's not gonna get to be She-Hulk for this. And so we're shown the title card for the show, which instead of saying She-Hulk says just Jen. Hilarious. There's another tidbit here that will apparently pay off later. Jen is told that she'll be walking with a groomsman named Jonathan, but we don't see who exactly that is yet. At the office, Mallory Book is handling a divorce case on Jen's behalf. The one getting divorced is Craig Hollis, who refers to himself as Mr. Immortal. Mr. Immortal is a character from the Great Lakes Avengers, and in this series he's played by David Pasquesi. You might recognize him from his role as Mok Shai's major domo in the Book of Boba Fett, a show that is only marginally better than this. Now, Mr. Immortal is kind of an oddball and admits to having run into traffic to get away from his wife, who was emotionally suffocating him. As he continuously repeats the "I'm a nice guy" line, Mallory and Nikki come to the conclusion that he's disturbed and cannot handle confrontation. So naturally, these two educated women who serve the American legal system start verbally assaulting him all at once, to the point that the audience can't can't even make out anything either woman is saying. And that leads to Mr. Immortal literally taking off running, jumping out the window, and landing onto a security car in the street below. Once again, this is a shining example of how the only woman who will ever handle herself with any kind of grace is Jen. Because Mallory, who we've been shown is a beyond capable, super detached, and extremely professional lawyer, is now reduced to yelling over Nikki just to verbally assault a client. Which, newsflash, never leads to any kind of resolution. But, you know, it's for the sake of the joke. Back at the rehearsal dinner, Jen and Lulu start to catch up. Lulu asks Jen what she's been up to, and when Jen starts describing her superhero lifestyle and her high-powered legal career and how well all of those are going for her, Lulu cuts her off and tells her the only thing she was interested in hearing is if she's with someone. You know, because again, the only woman who isn't as shallow as a kiddie pool in this show is Jen. She's cut off from giving any real type of answer because one of Lulu's friends, I kid you not, calls her over to discuss if she's Team Edward or Team Jacob. The newest of the Twilight movies came out like 10 years ago, so that's irrelevant. On a side note, I was very into those movies when I was 8, and even though they're both toxic, Team Edward, don't at me, that guy grew up to be Batman. Anyways, it's here that Jen's good friend Titania arrives, and she claims she's here because she dates a good friend of the groom. When Jen tries to tell her friend Lulu that Titania's only here to mess with her, Lulu brushes her off, so Jen goes outside to decompress. She's approached by a guy named Josh, who strikes up conversation, and because he's charming and not terrible looking, Jen doesn't run for the hills. This pleasant exchange is interrupted when Lulu runs out, asking Jen to help her tidy up because apparently a bunch of her staff are now quitting because of the way she's treating them. Again, why is every woman in this show literally so awful? Everybody is a waking nightmare besides Jen. I don't know how this is supposed to be a statement on feminism if everybody but Jen sucks. And Jen gives into her. It's not charming, it's frustrating to watch somebody who is supposed to be strong and you want to admire be a literal doormat to everybody around her. Anyways, we cut back to the office where all of Mr. Immortal's wives and one husband are discussing their grievances and what they think they deserve from this lawsuit. Now, one of his wives brings up the fact that she only discovered that he was pulling this whole scheme because she saw a video of him on a website called Intelligentsia, which Mallory describes as a website for hating man babies, whatever that means. While Mallory and Nikki are trying to talk to him about how wrong it is for him to have been creating fake identities and then faking his own death to get away from the spouses once he was sick of them, Mr. Immortal has to pull a sleazy man move and say, "I'll never understand women," which makes zero sense because he literally has a husband there that has the same grievances as every woman down the line. Anyways, on the day of the wedding, Jen is told by the other bridesmaids that the groomsmen have wrinkled their shirts playing Mario Kart and she's given a bundle of white button-downs to iron. They're literally telling this woman to iron. A group of adult women are telling another adult woman that they don't actually know to go iron everybody else's shirts. Oh, and to make matters worse, Jonathan, the famed groomsman she'll be walking with, is actually a disheveled old chihuahua that, according to one of the bridesmaids, had to be resuscitated that morning. I literally cannot make this up. Now, understandably, Jen is having such a terrible time at this wedding that she's basically doing nothing but buying drinks and dancing alone, and we're treated to a little montage of her doing that. While this is going on, Nikki has basically resolved the entire Mr. Immortal divorce case on her own, leaving Mallory impressed and the entire group of spouses pleased with the results. Of course, every single one of Mr. Immortal's spouses responds positively to being spoken to like a 5th grader, but forget it, any real legality has no place in this series. Back at the wedding, Jen is now half-past tipsy, sitting alone and making drunk calls. Josh comes over to talk to her. Jen sort of starts hitting on him and she admits that while she does believe in love, she really just came to this wedding because she wanted everybody to see how well she was doing. This glimmering moment of vulnerability is broken up only by the fact that Jen has to rush to go throw up in a bush outside. And while she's getting sick, Titania comes and literally sucker punches her, throwing her several feet back. Surprise, surprise, Jen was right. Titania admits that she only came here because she wants to publicly destroy her. And it's here that Titania sort of reveals her entire reason for hating She-Hulk is that she stole the limelight from her. Now, at first, Jen refuses to transform into She-Hulk, and she clumsily tries to fight Titania on her own, after throwing a punch that causes her to spin on one foot and fall to the ground in a very Three Stooges sort of way. With a little more effort than usual on account of the drinks, she transforms into She-Hulk and flings Titania into the dance floor. So the two start tussling to the tune of the electric slide, and the fight actually ends without much ruckus because Titania takes a step, slips on ice cubes, falls on her face, and breaks her veneers, causing her to end the fight and leave the wedding early. This show does not even buy its own fight scenes. It ends because she slips on ice? Come on, man, this is just ridiculous at this point. Anyways, Jen is left in the middle of the dance floor watching Titania leave. And when our favorite bridezilla Lulu walks up, she immediately starts apologizing and lets her know, hey, I got sucker punched while I was throwing up, and that's the only reason I transformed into She-Hulk. Lucky for her, bride Lulu is drunk enough that she just embraces her, says she's a huge fan, and makes a comment about her huge boobs, like twice, because that's how low they've gotten with the scripts of this show. Now, back at the office, Mallory and Nikki are having a couple of drinks together, and they decide to research that website Intelligentsia to watch the videos of Mr. Immortal pulling his scheme. Now, they end up having to make an account so that they can check in and see some supposed She-Hulk posts. And when they make an account, they find that not only is there a bunch of troll posts and memes, but there's also like death threats and just a bunch of hateful stuff on the internet. Mallory warns Nikki that they shouldn't tell Jen about this because it's all just troll posts anyways, and it's only gonna serve to upset her. Nikki seems to agree, except in the next scene, she's leaving Jen a quite long-winded voicemail all about what they found on Intelligentsia.com, the website for hating man babies. And we see that Jen actually hasn't answered because she and Josh, the charming guy from the wedding, are sharing a plate of fries. After this, we see a computer screen in what looks to be a lab with a message from somebody calling themselves Hulk King asking if the next phase is ready to go yet. We're not really sure what this means at this point, but being that it seems like a special syringe is being created, we can only assume that somebody is gonna come back and try and take Jen's blood again. Episode 6 ends here, and there's no end credits to this one either. Now at this point, you might be wondering if I missed something. No, they missed something. Daredevil wasn't in this episode either. Last week's episode, I rated a 2 out of 10, and I thought, oh my god, this show cannot get any worse. And actually, in my comments section, a lot of folks seem to agree. And yet we all sort of mutually said, well, it seems like next week is gonna be Daredevil's week, so let's stay strong and watch it. Not only was this week's episode worse, but again, there was no Daredevil to be found. You have got to give this show props for going above and beyond and disappointing people on 2 levels. Not only is this episode terribly written, complete filler, and just utter nonsense, but they also promised a Daredevil cameo last week that didn't happen this week. I just have no kind words left for this series. I am admittedly off the rails. I don't have it in me to talk politely anymore. I'm honestly just, I'm exhausted. I hate this. I'm frustrated. This is awful. I will repeat it for the people in the back that keep making this comment on every single one of my videos. I hate this show, and I will keep watching it because I'm a reviewer. We review things. Whether it feels like it sucks or it's really good, we continue to review, and like I said, I'm already now 6 episodes through. I'm gonna finish it. Like I said, I rate this episode a 1 out of 10. I would not even leave it on for my dogs while I'm out of the house because then I would have to be reported for animal cruelty. That's all I have to say about this train wreck. I've been Snarky J. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on episode 6 of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, in the comments below.